All right, let's do a full backyard tour. It's late spring, early summer, depending on how you want to call it. Let's see the whole darn thing and talk about what's going on for those of us that love big backyards. Let me show you mine. All right, so we are in the back patio area. Obviously, there's a giant mess over here because I have a problem. I think I can stop whenever I want, but we're not sure right now, of continuing to plant, even though the ideal time to plant was a little bit earlier. So we got one more apple tree that I haven't even unboxed. That's going in this weekend. We've got hardy kiwis. We have some questionably acquired seeds for oranges and lemons that won't go in the ground, but they'll go in pots. So anyway, I still got some stuff getting started, some things that are seeding, some things that are setting some more roots. I've got some additional strawberries in the corner over there. So that stuff's probably going out in the next day or two, and then I gotta stop. I have to draw a line somewhere, and we can't plant anymore after that. We've been watching a bunch of regular season baseball, really both inside and out, but I love when the weather's cool enough to watch baseball outside. So we're doing a bunch of that. Outdoor kitchen area we've gotten to use a lot. Actually, for the first time since we moved in, I used my outdoor burners and forgot to put my pot away, so you get to see that. But we did shrimp the other night. So I did a little shrimp boil out here because it's a little smelly for inside, so it's a cool use of that. We've done pizzas and burgers and all kinds of stuff out here. So this is the Zone 1, if you've seen some of our other videos of the things that still feel like they're pretty much part of the house. We're not even really into the yard yet, but we're outside. So it's that transitional zone. For most of us, that would include the pool too, if you've got a pool. And so with all the rain we've had this year, it's been a battle to keep the pool clean, and we've used it a little, not as much as we normally would, but pool season is upon us. It's starting to get hot outside, and we are ready to be in this thing a lot, especially the hot tub. Hot tubs get used even more than pool in our house for the adults. Super fun stuff going on there. And then we've had a bunch of parties. We had a bunch of end of school year parties. So we had tons of, like, the kids' whole grade out here running, going crazy. Played a game where you put a clothespin on your shirt and then everybody just tries to get everybody else's clothespin off and keep yours on. That was an absolute melee, but it was a blast. So we got pool noodles and stuff everywhere. Because of all the rain, not everything's quite buttoned up because we haven't been able to keep the grass and things out of the stone. So this is bocce ball. Hasn't gotten a ton of use lately, but looking forward to a bunch of that. We've been wearing out this pickleball court. Ever since we put it in, we've been getting to use it a ton. Anytime the weather's good, we are out here either playing pickleball or shooting hoops, but a ton of pickleball has been played lately. So if you don't have that transitional zone at your place where you're getting a little further from the house, but you're still in that area that you want to be able to see from the house, you might think about something like this. But pickleball, basketball, and then we're growing some of these privacy hedges over here. We've had so much rain this year that we're getting a lot of growth on those. So we're super excited about that. I'm always kind of tinkering with what I want to put in these pots. Actually transplanted these ornamental cabbages from the front. That will not be permanent. That was just a stash, but it's fun. You're experimenting in certain places, and in a pot, I don't ever think about that as permanent because I'm not setting permanent roots. So we'll throw different things in there. That's probably the third thing we put in there this year already. We'll keep playing with that until we find something that's gonna withstand the heat that we really love. We know what will work. It comes down to what mama likes. Garden is super late this year also. As you can see, there's not much out here. We drown a bunch of seeds. We've been so busy with into school and traveling, and I've been doing some work travel, that really all that I've got set out here is a few herbs. I got a bunch of tomatoes that really haven't grown much because there's been so much water and not a ton of heat. We've got some peppers, a little bit of squash. My grapes are going nuts. I'll show you the actual grapes here in a second. And then we cut back a ton of blackberries and raspberries from last year that are just starting to peek through. Planted some new strawberries over here, but I'll show you some strawberries that are a little bit further along over there in a little while. But in this zone, I would also include some of the ornamental privacy, shade tree, shade plant type stuff. And those crepe myrtles right there are only 4 or 5 years old, but the plan for those was privacy from neighbors. We love our neighbors, but in the pool, just a visual break, and those are doing their job. You can see the ones on the right that get the most sun are blooming the most, but it won't be long. I'm talking days before the ones on the left start blooming as well. So this is kind of that second zone area. Again, if you watch our channel and pay attention to how we think about these big backyards and all the opportunity of what we can do with them, but also some of the areas that need some work. So this is an area that needs a little bit of work in the garden. We want to keep this looking generally tidy. Tougher to do with the kids, but we can see it from in the house. So there's a kind of different level of oversight and cleanliness that we're wanting. Let me show you these grapes The kids love these. I'm probably going to transplant these to a bigger trellis next year, but for now, I cut this way back, and you can see a couple of them are already drying up. But there's some grapes there, a good bundle back here. It's fun for the kids just to be able to roll around, and those aren't quite ready to grab and eat. You could, they'd be pretty tart. But before long, blackberries, raspberries will be back over here. If you like cherry tomatoes, you can grab those orange ones, are some of the sweetest and best on earth. And then there will be more and more strawberries growing up in here too. So we try to keep this as really more of a berry garden than a vegetable garden, because that's what the kids like. But we do some vegetables that we get regular use out of. So that's what's going on here. If you know the name of this tree, tell me, because I've had 2 arborists tell me different names. They grow some of the biggest leaves and the weirdest pods, and it looks like it's half dead all the time, but it actually creates, by midsummer, it creates a ton of shade. It's probably 3 or 4 or 5 degrees cooler underneath that tree. That used to be where our tree house was, but we pulled that one down and used leftover materials from when we built the house. And I had ChatGPT create a build plan for me, literally for free in like 30 seconds. And then I had the framer build our new tree house in the back. So I'll show you that when we get back there. But the well is over here. You see some other privacy shrubs going up. So that's an area that doesn't get used for play or entertainment much, but it's pretty functional when we need to use the well water to irrigate. There's also kind of a road on that side that just helps us get back with a wheelbarrow or a go-kart, or occasionally a truck. And we built that roadside up with all the clay that we pulled out when we dug the pond. So just a lot going on. This is the part that looks the worst right now because it's been so wet, but we haven't kept the weeds and things out of the granite area. But before long, we'll get all that cleaned up and it looks solid, kind of stone orange area. Fun, drains a little bit better under the pergola, and we'll hang out, do parties. We usually have a picnic table there, but that's gotten shuffled lately. So we'll probably be putting a new one there this summer, and we can do some meals outside when the weather's nice enough. Play area gets a lot of time, little bit. My youngest one's behind the camera right now, but she wears this one out. There she is. She wears this one out, and believe it or not, they wouldn't want me to tell you this, but the big kids swing too. So you're never too old to enjoy a swing. Crepe myrtles everywhere, love it when they're in bloom, and when they're all in bloom, it completely changes the backyard. It's got a different look for 3, 4, 5 months of the year as different things are in bloom. So these are not that old, depending on where you are. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, crepe myrtles are easy. People say they thrive on neglect. Like you literally just plant it and then neglect them on purpose, and they tend to do better that way than if you obsess about them. We're always refilling the play area with wood chips or leaves or whatever we can get, generally free, but it keeps that level up and keeps it from being muddy. But if we don't top it off every year or so, the wintertime gets really muddy because those will break down. And some of the best soil we have in the whole place is actually right here because it's constantly breaking down good, awesome organic matter. There's more earthworms in there than any place on the planet potentially. But my kids know that we like earthworms because they help us grow fun stuff to eat. So play area here, there's some zinnias that we seeded in the back. We keep seed from all of our zinnias, and my girls and I have currently, I think, 34 varieties of zinnia. They grow really tall with big flower heads. Some of them are tight, some of them are loose, some of them are multicolor, some of them are shaded, some of them are fairly simple. We like finding new ones and so those will be up and fully flowering probably in the next 3 weeks, but they're just getting started from seed over there. Again, so much water, not a lot of heat. So we filled some low areas in here, so that's where you're seeing some areas not fully covered with grass. Anytime we dig or start or build something, we're trying to make use of all that leftover stuff. So if we dig a hole, we want to use that dirt effectively. When we put in the bocce pit, we had some extra, somewhat rocky soil. So we threw it out here, and then the kids got, was it a penny or a nickel for every rock that they put in the bucket and cleared out. So we're not finished with that job, but trying to fill in some low spots so it's more fun to run around and play. This is what we call the lonely apple. It's actually an Anna apple, but it's all by itself. It's not in the orchard with all the other trees. So we call this one the lonely apple. And there's a few apples on there right now. You can see some fairly good looking. This one got absolutely murdered by some squirrels and things down low. So I'm not entirely sure that this tree has a long life left, but we're gonna get whatever fruit we can while it remains. And I have no idea how long that's gonna be, but I don't think you'll see this one on videos in 3 or 4 years. It'll probably be something else there because we do have some drip irrigation that helps us get some of these started. I planted a ton of stuff, and a little bit over here helped me in the last 3 weeks. So there's a lot of new stuff that I can show you that is not yet mature. We're not going to do a full garden tour, but let's just take a peek at what's going on in what we would consider the back part, right? So I'm standing on a berm that we put in for water management. Check out the channel because I think we're going to do a video soon on all the different ways we need to manage water, and we can take advantage of water when you have a big backyard. When you have a larger property, you want to think about drainage, but you also want to think about irrigation. You want to get rid of some water, but you also want to keep some water. So we'll do a whole deal on that. But that's why this berm is here. The water that flows towards the house, we want to move over into a drainage ditch that we built there. So you're seeing some of these piles of wood chips. That's actually to create some healthier soil and fill some low spots. It's not the best way to do it, but it's the easiest way to do it. Those will break down over the summer. The grass will cover them, and then that'll break down into really good soil where later, hopefully, we can get the grass that we want to grow. The dream scenario would be to have St. Augustine grass everywhere, but we don't have irrigation everywhere. But that's the stuff that our kids can run barefoot on all year long, doesn't puddle and get muddy, has less chiggers and things like that out here, or red bugs, depending on where you are in the country. So that's why you're seeing some of these spots of wood chip mulch. And then the orchard, the ideal scenario is that we constantly have a foot or more of wood chip layer here. So we've actually put over 40 yards of free wood chips from the tree companies in the area that usually have to pay to go haul and dump that stuff. And I've given them a green light to dump it here. And then my oldest, my son, gets paid by the hour to wheelbarrow a lot of that stuff out here. So he's learning work ethic and making a little bit of money to save for first car or whatever. And we're filling the orchard. So we still need another layer or two. We got a little bit of Bermuda grass coming through, but we're fighting the good fight. So lots of new plants, elderberries, gooseberries, blackberries, raspberries, and a couple of other things. I'll think of them here in a second. We got hardy kiwi that we're working on. You saw some of that up front. Otherwise, in here we have mostly apples, pears, peaches. We've tried loquat. We haven't had a lot of success with that. We got figs all along the fence. We got some volunteer mushrooms in here. I've been working more than I would like to be to thin the pears and the plums, because it is an absolute bumper year. There are tons of them, but the way I let my trees grow, I let them droop, which looks weird, but that's ideal so that we can reach all the fruit and still have those fully developed limb structures. So I have to thin them or they'll break. So this is not an orchard video necessarily, but that's what's going on out here right now. You can see these things drooping and getting some size on them. So anytime I'm out here, I'm thinning an area where I've got two next to each other to just one, or when I've got 4 or 5, I'm trimming that down to 1 or 2. So that's what's going on. Lots of pears. Our 4 central trees that do really well most years are all the same pear. They're a hard pear. They're good for cooking or canning. You can make an apple pie with that. Nobody would even know that it wasn't an apple. Very similar texture, but those have been doing well, and they didn't do well last year. So I feel like they're paying us back this year. More peaches, brand new apple. We're playing with some Fijis. Our family loves to eat Fijis, but they don't tend to grow super well here, but we're gonna try anyway. We have the space to do it. Plums are blowing up. Been thinning those like crazy. New apple, new apple. I put 2 new Israeli apples in. Apples from Israel that are bred for the heat that we have. And then I did 2 from Arkansas that have been really tested and doing really, really well there. And then this back trellis, we've been babying some hardy kiwi plants. Those are kiwis that are smooth and don't have the fuzz. They're more like a big grape with a kiwi interior. They're sweeter. They have unbelievable antioxidant health benefits. If you believe that, I don't know who to believe when it comes to what's healthy, but we're gonna grow those here. Next year, I plan on bringing that grapevine back here because we built a trellis that will hold a tremendous amount of weight. So be really, really excited if next year we had kiwis, grapes, and maybe 1 or 2 other edible ornamental combo vines back here. My favorite tree in the whole orchard right here, we've got some really good looking apples that are just starting to blush. They're starting to get that color. So they're that light green, then they get a little hint of red, and then they'll end up being a little combo of both. They get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter as long as they're on the tree, and then they'll ripen and do really well. So all these little pink ties you're seeing are brand new elderberry, raspberry, blackberry, gooseberry, all sorts of new berries. The girls love to be out here, so does Carter, with the friends and be grabbing and eating as we go. This is what we call the field. pretty obvious why. This is the area that we've designated from day one that we're not going to build anything, we're not going to put anything permanent. We're constantly trying to level that. This is where the kids play, throw the football, play volleyball. A lot of Nukem got played at a birthday party recently right here, and I'm talking like deathmatch Nukem, like all out diving and rolling stuff. But this is where the kids run and play. When they have the go-karts out, this is kind of where they're flying through, and then they've got to slow down as they make their way back because there's so many obstacles to get around. But this is the field area where they play. Big cottonwood here, big huge cottonwoods back behind the play area as well. This is our one that's female and puts out the cotton pods that a lot of people historically don't like in the spring, because when they pop and the cotton comes out, they float everywhere. So people don't love that, but it actually is a pretty cool thing to see, and we just went through that, so we're on the very tail end of that. You don't see a lot of them, and now it'll just be awesome shade pretty much the rest of the year. So this is the pond house, or the tree house that was built from the leftover materials from the house. The girls love being back here, reading a book, hanging out with friends. Flashlights up in there. We had a couple extra windows left when we built the house. So on the other side, you can see they've got a pond view, which is why they sometimes call it the pond house. And then our ducks, which we did not buy or bring here, but they love to be here, and they've been here for years. Normally 2 ducks. We've had 2 ducks on this pond all winter and most spring for probably 7 years. This year we've had 6 or 7, so I don't know what we did right this year. But it's been really fun to watch the babies grow and follow mama around, and then they're constantly flying off and landing, flying off and landing. It's super fun. And I do like to hunt ducks, but not these ducks, so we'll leave these ones alone. And then back here we call the way back. It's just what we call it. Again, if you've seen our zone video, you're talking zone 5 and beyond once you're back here, because this doesn't need to be checked on every day. We don't need to be back here all the time. I might come back here 2 or 3 times a week. Mama might come back here twice a month, but the kids like to run around back here, ride the bikes, ride the go-karts. We've got a mulberry tree back here, and lots of people like mulberry. They just don't know it. So when they visit, we'll offer a mulberry, and they'll be like, I've never had this. How did I not know about this? Kind of a longer, skinnier, raspberry, blackberry looking fruit. And I just planted some Pakistani mulberries back there that are like that long. The normal ones are like a third of that. This was just a broken branch from here stuck in the ground, and is probably 20 feet tall in the first 3 years. We've mulched this area over here because my next plan is to add more fruiting shrubs, probably a few trees that would grow taller so we can run some vines up those trees eventually. But the goal is for you to be able to wind through here as you're walking and hanging out and grab and eat most of the year and enjoy more and more shade as we go. So we've planted probably 140 trees since we moved in here less than 10 years ago. And I don't really think we're gonna stop. Like I said earlier, I can quit whenever I want. That may not be entirely true. So again, just building soil here so that we can hold in moisture, have more organic life, not have to have sprinklers everywhere, and keep growing more edible, fun stuff. But this is an area where the kids will be flying with go-karts and bikes and all sorts of fun stuff. They build their forts and things back here. I'll show you where that happens. But anytime we have guests, this is the part where kind of once they make it back here, it feels very different than up by the house. It's less functional to the visitor. I've obviously got things going on back here that I'm keeping an eye on, but it's just an area to hang out and feel like you're not in the middle of the city anymore. So you can see our neighbors. Obviously, we're working on that. Again, we love our neighbors, but the privacy of feeling like you're in your own spot is what we're working on. So this is one of those little bitty mulberries that I just planted from a little tiny cutting that's about that big. One here, one over there. Looks like they're not even there, but they're doing pretty well. And then when everything's rocking, we're able to pump water from the big pond up to the small pond, and then it will run back down. So it's kind of a natural filtration from the fish and the ducks in the big pond. We pump that fertility, or that water that they've used the restroom in, and then pump that back down. And the plan is to plant more edible food along that route. So it's getting that nutrient-rich fertilizer, if you will, but in a natural way. So we have more and more edible stuff back here, and it's all kind of a system that's working well. Usually we have lots and lots and lots of little frogs and minnows and tadpoles and even some turtles between the two of these. And when it's rocking, it's pumping out of that. Myrtles all the way back, really good, not evergreen, but seasonal privacy. And then we're adding evergreen shrubs in between. American beautyberry is a fun shrub that can do well in our area. It's beautiful when it does. Another peach that has 2 fruit on it. That's all we got on this guy this year. I'm not sure why. but we're cutting back some of these trees to see if maybe that's part of the issue. And then this area here is a little muddy right now, but the kids actually love it. Kind of feels like a separate world, completely shaded, almost like its own natural fort hangout area. You can see where we've cut back some limbs, but they'll ride the go-kart or bikes back here and then hang out under here. Especially in the summer, it's way cooler under here, and they can kind of ride the perimeter and enjoy this. Sometimes they'll hang a swing or make one out of rope or whatever from those limbs. And this is just a super fun area. So I don't plant anything back here because it's kind of their world to play in, and they'll dig holes. They've got the hill over here, so you never know exactly what's happening with forts and treasure maps and all kinds of stuff back here. But that's the whole goal. That's one of my primary reasons for having all this, is so that the kids can use their imagination. You know, the screens aren't the devil, but too much of them is not. We don't want them doing that. So they get to be out here, use their imaginations, dream up things, go nuts. So this is the back Zone 5, where you can do whatever the heck you want. The spot over here is where we're watching these ducks lay their eggs and sit and incubate those right under this big willow, which was like this big. I had it planted out front. We moved it back here and it's exploded. So awesome shade in the ducks. It's on the north side of the pond, so it doesn't shade it a ton, but we want to try to hold that water all summer long. Again, check our channel for a water video. If you have a big backyard, you better be paying attention to your water. But shade helps us keep the water. And then again, crepe myrtles for privacy. We get honeysuckle on this fence most of the summer, and so the kids love to come out and get little tastes of honey, and it smells incredible. And I have no idea where it came from. We just celebrate it because we didn't have to put it in. So all along the side of the pond, when we prune the fruit trees, we often just kind of shove those in there. So far this year, we had so much water, a lot of them have drowned, but I would bet we'll get 1 or 2 new fruit trees this year just from trying to make use of our cutting. So like I said before, try to make use of all of our waste and kind of reuse and recycle. And then there's not really a lot of heartbreak if it doesn't work, but if it does, it's just kind of bonus. So one of my girls' favorite spots out here, and they'll come take pictures. We had a birthday party with a whole photo shoot in the fall, because in the fall, all these crepe myrtles get those beautiful yellows and oranges and reds and all that jazz. But in the spring and summer, we actually get flower bloom. This is just kind of our purple alley. This is mostly for transporting and kind of work. It's the utility side of the yard, but the girls really love it. We actually did family photos out here one time. It's really intended for privacy and functionality, but it's ended up being one of the prettier parts of the yard most of the year. So Crepe Myrtle Lane Road is what we use this for. And this was all the clay we pulled out of the pond when we did it. And then really the last thing I've got for you for now is we're growing all this natural evergreen privacy. So these are not evergreen. These will drop their leaves and everything once we get that first freeze. But the goal is to have these grow up more maturely so that when these drop, we have that extra layer of privacy. So the backyard still feels like our oasis far away from town, even though we're 10 or 15 minutes from all of it. So you can see the camper in the background. That's stored over on the side. That's the pool equipment and all that jazz. But that's the tour. That's what's happening right now, late spring. And it feels like a different world almost every season, but we are getting into the season, obviously, where things are growing. We've had such a wet spring that I'm really looking forward to this summer because I think we're gonna have unbelievably healthy, lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, lots of fun. We got a bunch of parties planned. So we'll see you on a video very soon. If you haven't seen that zones video, check it out somewhere near this video because it explains how you can lay out your backyard or design it if you're buying one or building one or just wanting to enjoy yours more and more. Let me know in the comments what you're up to with your yard. And of course, if you're buying or selling a home with some land in the DFW area, that's what we do. I'm Todd Tremonti. Our information's below. I'll see you soon.